Today, I want to talk about this phenomenon in music of artists starting off Christian and then crossing over. So why am I interested in this? I am a video director and I live in South Carolina, which means my day job is primarily working with churches and Christian music artists. And it's always fun when somebody from the Christian realm makes it in just music in general and no one else really has any idea that they came from Christian music. What inspired me to make this video is the song Lil Boo Thing by Paul Russell. This song blew up on TikTok. Even if you don't know the song by name, you've probably heard like the snippet of audio that's on like every TikTok. Now, what a lot of people don't know about him is he did start as a Christian artist. He was signed to the Christian hip hop label King's Dream for a long time and only recently has started making music under a different label, and that's when Lil Boo Thing popped off. And it shouldn't be that surprising this guy is Christian, considering like the hook of the song says, "I don't give a hoot what you do think." Like the song as a whole is just so upbeat, family friendly, like it makes sense. And it's interesting because like this is a legitimately huge hit. This guy had no other hits even near that caliber before this. But Paul Russell is far from the first Christian artist to do this. And I haven't heard a lot of other people talk about this, but this is a very tried and true trend that we see in the music industry over and over again. I'm gonna mainly stick to current examples in this video because this is something that's gone on for so long, but some people you may know about is Paramore started out as a Christian band when they first formed. Even I've heard rumors that Blink-182 to a degree were all Christian. And these are examples of bands that started out Christian when they were young, like when they were kids, but they had a lot more growing to do. And some of them fell out of faith. Some of them just found different means of expression. Some of them just wanted to express other things they couldn't do in Christian music. And so the band changed and evolved. The biggest pop example of this, as you may know, is Katy Perry, who got her start as Katy Hudson, the Christian worship artist. I have a lot of anecdotes from friends and acquaintances that used to listen to Katy Hudson or even went to Katy Hudson shows. And it's crazy the trajectory her career has taken, but you do have to take into account that people grow and change a whole lot. And she was very young when she started making Christian music, and people change a lot from when they're 17. When you think about it that way, it's not that big of a surprise. Then you have bands like Evanescence that were really involved in Christian music, but just had one hit that was so undeniably good, it couldn't help but pop off everywhere else.
Wake me up inside. I can't wake up. Wake me up inside. Save me.
But bringing it back to more current artists, probably the biggest artist that used to be Christian that you know is NF. And that's not the biggest secret out there. He doesn't hide that, but it is crazy to go back to some of his more Christian stuff. Like, I remember this feature he did when it came out.
Regrets, no matter what you've gone through, Jesus, He gave it all to save you. He carried the cross on His shoulders, so you could start over.
So background on NF, he was slaving away at the independent Christian scene for a long time, and he got signed to this imprint of Capitol Records. Capitol Records was making like a Christian sub-label at the time, and it was him and this group, Social Club Misfits. Social Club Misfits very much stayed within the confines of what Christian music normally is, but NF always had like a darker tone than most Christian artists, but he still made music for that scene, but just being true to himself, it was very different than what Christians were listening to. And that led to his biggest hit, Let Me Down, which grew past Christian music pretty quickly. And since he was under an imprint of Capitol Records, Capitol was able to push it to everybody. And eventually he wasn't signed to just the imprint anymore. He was signed to Capitol Records with the capital C. I didn't even mean to make that pun. Look at that. And what the crossover of NF shows us is the label of Christian music can be applied pretty broadly. It's like, what is or isn't Christian music? Like, does it have to mention God or Jesus in every other line? Can it be just about everyday struggles, but it's vaguely from a Christian perspective. No one really knows, and there are arguments about this all the time. But if you contrast the two artists on that Capitol Records imprint, NF, Social Club Misfits, the Social Club, they cater to what is expected of a Christian audience a little more, whereas NF is an example of someone that's just making art that's true to themselves, even if like it isn't very clearly a Christian record when you're listening to it. He just trusts that his perspective is Christian, and that's enough. And why a lot of artists want to cross over away from Christian music is a lot of Christian music fans aren't cool with that approach. And they want their Christian music a certain way. They want to hear it and instantly know it's about Jesus, and everybody that's in the car instantly knows this is a Jesus song. And that can be very limiting to artists, because while faith is a huge part of people's lives, it's not always the only part. Like, it might influence every part, but sometimes Christian artists, they want to make a love song about somebody they love. They want to make a song about how they're feeling sad, and they don't want to like put in a gospel message just haphazardly because they're feeling a certain way right now. They want to be true to that. And I think that's why the NF crossover made sense. He's never recounted Christianity or anything, but he's allowed to make the exact music he wants to make, convey the expression he wants to express without extra rules being put on him. Paul Russell is kind of the same way, even though he is kind of the flip side of that. Everything he makes could still be consumed by a Christian audience because it is very inoffensive, family-friendly. Like, I bet Lil Boo Thing would do great on The Ellen Show. It would kill on The Ellen Show. Paul Russell kind of did have to grow out of Christian music to make the stuff that he wanted to make, because Lil Boo Thing is just a love song. There's no mention of God or anything in it. And with Christian music, it's cool if you do that once. If you do entire albums of that, people start to wonder, like, hey, what are you offering that's specifically Christian? Why is our little niche supporting you, you know? And that's where conflict could arise. That's why artists that are still Christian want to get out of Christian music, because it's just less restraints put on their music and what they could do. Now, another artist that if you haven't looked at his Spotify back catalog, you might not know was Christian is Montell Fish. Now, Montell Fish is an alternative R&B artist. His stuff has kind of a lo-fi bedroom pop sound, and he is known for love songs, just very low-key, atmospheric music. But he started off making these lo-fi Christian songs, and he was an active Christian artist. Like, he was touring and doing Christian shows and festivals, and he came out with the album Jamie in 2022. And this was his big break into the mainstream. His song Fall in Love with You is absolutely huge. And I remember at this time, he was getting put on all these Spotify playlists, and I had not thought about this guy in forever, since kind of seeing his name on some of those Christian festival lineups. And it was crazy to me that at New Music Friday, he was like in the top 10, 15-ish. And he's an artist that I think subject matter wise, he just wanted to branch out into something else entirely. All of his songs are just very focused on love, and they're way more sensual than what Christian music would allow. And that's another thing about Christian music is in Christian music, there are very few legitimately good love songs, because Christianity in general just is afraid of sex, or just doesn't know how to talk about sex. Either you get people that just don't want to talk about it at all, or people go the other way, and it's like youth pastors making tasteless hot wife jokes, or, you know, whatever Tim Ross is doing right now.
And then get butt naked on a cross to die for both you and me. The only stripper I'm in love with is Jesus.
When it comes to sex, Christians just can't be chill. So if you feel like making sexy music, you kind of have to go outside of Christian music. Where things really get interesting is his album, Her Love Still Haunts Me Like a Ghost. Like, very much goes outside of what you would expect from a Christian artist. The biggest song on this album is him talking about hooking up with someone in a hotel room, which a lot of people would be like, yeah, that makes him not a Christian artist now. But what's really interesting is he just released a song called I Just Want to Feel Your Love Again, which is one of those songs that kind of could be about a girl, but the music video shows him singing in a church, in a very small town, classy looking church. And a few days later, he releases this documentary film called This Life Ain't Worth Eternal Damnation. Watching the documentary, that title is based on a comment from somebody that was mad that he wasn't making Christian music anymore. So a lot of people are kind of heralding this as Montell Fish's return to Christian music. I kind of get it, but I also kind of don't see it that way. Looking at the trajectory of Montell Fish's recent music, of him singing very sensual love songs, singing about being sexually promiscuous, then having this return to faith, I think when you look at the art as a whole, the morals are always still Christian. And while his song Hotel, which is about him hooking up in a hotel room, it still morally feels pretty conservative to me. Even though it's about that, the way it's postured is it paints this moment as a rock bottom moment for Montell. I think if you really listen, whether he was intending this the whole time or is just speaking from his truth, the moral of this song is that's not the best way to live life. And that still feels Christian to me. I just think that Christian audiences either lack imagination or lack nuance enough to be able to listen to music like that and take that morality from it. They assume that if you're talking about something, you must be endorsing it, which is why you have to talk about certain subject matters or it's not appropriate to listen to. And I don't think that's a great, healthy way to engage with art. That brings us to the last artist I want to talk about, and that is Foggieraw. This guy hasn't fully blown up yet, but he is definitely on track to. He has gotten big on TikTok in the past year or two. He's definitely someone that is on a lot of people's radar. And this guy has been making Christian music since 2016. And what's interesting about his crossover is, unlike a lot of artists, he hasn't shed the Christian label at all. I think the reason he is crossing over into more mainstream avenues is that he rejects a lot of the premises of what Christian music is. He seems very sure of his faith and he loves talking about his faith all the time, but he'll talk about other subject matter too. Again, Christians don't like real love songs. He will write real love songs about women. And he also rejects one of the core tenets of what makes Christian music, which is he curses in his music. There are a lot of things you could kind of get away with in Christian music if you're good, but what seems to be the thing that has always and will always set off Christian audiences is just saying a curse word. But Foggieraw is just one of those artists that seems very sure of himself, and you are getting his full real self on these albums. And if he says curse words in real life a lot, you could bet that he's gonna say them in his music. And that's something a lot of people aren't gonna be cool with, but he is very much, he's forging his own lane. He wants to be known as a guy of faith, but he also just wants to be himself, and he'll let people accept him or not. He's just going to keep doing him. One thing I will say about Foggieraw is a lot of Christian music is positioned as a response to music that's gotten popular in the mainstream. They want to be a safe alternative to what's popular, a Christian alternative, a Christian version of mainstream music. So Christian music is often behind on trends. I could even remember in 2016 when hip hop really changed. It took Christian hip hop a few years to really catch up and get artists with that sound. But Foggieraw is not like that. I think in my entirety of listening to Christian music when I was younger and working with Christian musicians as an adult, I think Foggieraw is the person that is trailblazing the most. He's ahead of the curve in music. He has a unique style that no one else was doing back then and very few people are doing now. He has a mumble rap type style, but it's not like the other mumble rap. He was doing it his own way. He raps over beats that artists of his tone usually don't. This guy is he's creating a new sound that's fresh. That's very rare for Christian music. So it makes total sense to me that people outside of Christian music would also want to hear this guy, because he's created something new. He's created something exciting. Okay, so I recorded this video like a month or two ago, and since I recorded this video, Foggieraw has released videos with Kyle and Summer Walker, so people are really starting to pay attention. But yeah, those are some current artists that you might not have known were Christian. Overall, I just wanted to say that Christian music is a giant ecosystem in and of itself. And it does kind of exist separately from the mainstream, but it's not something to be counted out entirely. I'll say this has definitely been true in my career, that the ecosystem behind Christian music makes it a little easier for beginning artists to get involved creating art and find an audience, perform in front of that audience quicker. In the like capitalist hellscape we're living in, not a lot of giant institutions really support art, but the church is a place that definitely needs art. They value art because it makes them relevant. Like, every statistic says that church attendance is going down, and less people are going, especially in the younger crowd, and churches use art as a tool to kind of try to stay on top and revitalize religion for new people. And because of that, it's easier to get paid a living wage making art in the church than it is anywhere else. They so desperately need good and new art that if you're someone that could provide something unique, you can start playing in front of big audiences, get a lot of fans like a lot quicker than you would anywhere else. The trade-off though is it does come with extra restrictions on your art and what you can make. So it's not surprising that people that get started in here, that become more fully formed artists, want to get out of it eventually. An artist getting out of Christian music might be disappointing to some of the fans in that niche, but it really isn't an indication of their faith status or not. Christian music, more than anything else, prioritizes being safe. Making art that is very inoffensive, that can be listened to by children and old people and not stand out to them in a negative way. And I think that is the key to what rubs a lot of artists wrong in the Christian space, is creativity ultimately is about pushing boundaries. Like, you always want to be doing something new. And in a genre whose main priority is being safe, like, you could see how those two ideas would butt heads a whole lot. That doesn't mean you can't be creative in the Christian music space, but if you're a Christian music fan, next time an artist you were a fan of just kind of seems to be doing something really different, just don't give them the side eye. Don't be like, ugh, what is that? Or be like, that person fell off. That person's not Christian anymore. That person was just using the industry for fame, money, whatever. Just know that person, they're being a more true version of themselves. They're expressing themselves in the way they need to be expressing themselves. And ultimately, that is what the world needs. That's what the world needs from every artist. If you don't jive with it, no one's forcing you to listen. Thank you so much for watching. I have put a Spotify playlist in the description with music from the artists we talked about, along with other Christian artists and their crossover hits. So you can follow me on Spotify. You can follow me on socials at Robert2_Isaac. Also, I mentioned I'm a filmmaker. I have a screenwriting podcast with a frequent writing partner of mine. It is called Written By. There is also a link to that in the description. So thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. I don't want to do the whole I like this guy before he was cool thing, but to flex my Foggieraw fandom, he popped off like this past year, the year before. I got this shirt of his in 2018, says Foggieraw, and I remember when I got it, it took 4 months to get to my place, and when I got it, it looked very hand packaged. I would guess that maybe he was operating independent and did it himself. This usually isn't what I wear, but I distinctly remember seeing it and being like, I can make a Lil Uzi Vert-esque fit with it. Yeah, I've been on this wave for a while. I want some credit. Low-key is kind of fresh. I wish I could do something with it. Yeah, when Foggieraw blows up, I want y'all to know I saw the vision.